Alrighty. Thank you to everybody who joined us today. On behalf of myself, my name is Bess Lindahl. I am the Portland Elder Care Council president, and our group wants to thank everybody that's joined today. And specifically, we want to thank Tory Thompson for joining us and explaining a little more about this wonderful program, Providence Elderplace PACE. To get started, though, I'm going to quick share the slides about our group like we always do, just so if you're not familiar, you have an idea of what we do here at the Portland Elder Care Council. So we are a group of volunteers, and we are dedicated to helping our community deal with planning around older adult issues. We want to help older adults, their caregivers, their family with education, and then all the resources that they need to have solutions to the issues that we all face as we get older. So we've got just an introduction to everybody on our team here. Like I said, I'm Bess. I'm a senior placement specialist. We've got Kelsey. She's our senior, what is it? I can't remember the term, senior real estate specialist. We had a conversation about this term the other day. And she's our vice president. And then Jamie Levin, she's our social engagement specialist. We have Whitney, who is our professional organizer and senior move manager. Mariah's our financial advisor. Melissa is our aging and life care manager. Suzanne is our guardian and fiduciary specialist. Nora King is our Medicare plan specialist. There she is waving, Miss America. Jennifer Chundy is our elder law attorney. She'll be joining us shortly. Sarah Nelson is our in-home care specialist. And we have two new members. Dr. Aaliyah Al-Humaid, she's an internal and geriatric medicine physician, a concierge doctor practicing locally. And we also have Mary Ann, who is a new member as an end-of-life doula. We're very excited to have them join our team. They bring a lot. So that's just an introduction of who we all are. You can see we're all women. We love supporting each other. So, and we love educating people. So today we invited Tory Thompson from Providence Elderplace to explain the PACE program, especially, for a lot of people, families. It's a little bit different when she's explaining to industry professionals how things work, but it's different when we want to explain to families how they can take advantage of this program. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tory. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Just a little background about me. Before I came to Elderplace 6.5 years ago, I worked in senior housing for 35 years. I started out in the early days in nursing homes because in the early 80s, the only thing a recreation therapist could do if you didn't want to move to Florida or Arizona was work in a nursing home. So that was my first about 18 years. And then I moved to Oregon and had so many opportunities because we have so many levels of care, the assisted living and adult care homes and memory care. So in every area I've worked, I don't think there's a single thing you could say about elder care that I haven't provided, even in-home care and live in-home care. So it is the thing I learned early on about myself that I love to do, and I'm very happy to be part of Elderplace. So I'm going to share my screen. On the top will go away in a second, so I can drag this down. Okay, all right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So Providence is part of the National PACE program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. Today, I'm going to talk about what is PACE, who's eligible and who benefits, and how to refer to PACE.
Lisa works full-time and cares for her aging mom. Her days were spent doing housework, helping mom with personal care, making appointments, arranging in-home help, managing medications, running errands, and driving mom to all her appointments. Lisa was exhausted and overwhelmed, and she worried about how to pay for mom's increasing care needs. Then Lisa discovered Providence Elderplace PACE, a program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. Providence Elderplace PACE meets mom's needs all under one roof. With Elderplace PACE, she has a care team of professionals. They work together to coordinate and deliver mom's health and care needs. Her team includes her primary care provider, nurse, social worker, chaplain, dietitian, caregiver, dentist, rehab therapist, life enrichment coordinator, transportation driver, and pharmacist. Mom's team makes sure she has the care, medical supplies, medications, equipment, and social enrichment she needs for overall well-being. Lisa met with a Providence Elderplace PACE enrollment specialist. She learned that the program is both health insurance and healthcare provider combined. Mom qualifies because of her age and she lives in the service area. She needs help with mobility and toileting, can live safely in the community, such as her own home or in assisted living, and she agrees to receive her health and personal care from Providence Elderplace PACE. Best of all, Elderplace PACE accepts both private pay and Medicaid. Lisa doesn't have to worry about how to pay for mom's care as it increases. Now Lisa can relax and enjoy her time with mom. The Providence Elderplace PACE care team handles all the details. Is Providence Elderplace PACE right for your family? Find out. Call today.
Okay, now let. Oh, darn it. Okay. So Zoom is a little different than Teams. So getting out of this page seems to be different.
Whatever you gotta do.
Oh,
Tori.
sugar. I don't even know what that. I have two different things showing on two different screens.
The Patriot Power
Oh,
Generator
Lordy.
1800.
Let's see.
See the-
Here,
Okay.
I stopped that for you. If that's okay.
What is happening? Oh my gosh, this has never happened before. Okay.
I think you can try to share your screen again for yourself.
But it is going on my end. She's super loud.
Take your time. We're not.
Goodness gracious.
Sometimes
I can't even see anywhere on my screen where the YouTube is playing.
Oh, crazy.
Goodness gracious. Everything I click to stop won't stop it. It's like it's taken its own brain. Holy oh my Lord.
Well, should we...
Oh. I'm going to leave and come back.
Okay. Let's try to keep ourselves busy while she's gone. Poor Tori. We had a couple people in and out too, so
I'll
hopefully.
just blame Zoom because all week people have seemed to have like major technical issues that they haven't had before.
Oh, well,
So let's blame Zoom.
let's blame Zoom.
They're
I don't
not
have a
here.
problem with that. For the first time in 2.5 years, we hate Zoom. Oh, that's too bad. I hate it when stuff goes wrong like that. Here she is.
Oh my gosh. I
Is
don't
it
know if
better
you
now?
I don't know if you all could hear, but on my end, it was the PACE video and two other YouTube videos yelling in my ears, telling their thing, and the person going "Doo-doo" for some New Year's Eve thing. It was crazy. I have never had that happen before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for your patience and your sense of humor. Give this another
Always.
try. This time, I don't believe I need.
And we can't see you. Your camera is off still, just so you know.
How's that?
Much better.
All right, so share my screen. Since you saw the video, I don't think you need to, we don't need to go to that one again. Oh, goodness. And of course, my actual the real video, the real PowerPoint closed, so you get to see my file load here.
We'll cut all this.
Oh
in the
my goodness.
recording. I don't even know how to do that. Oh my God.
I don't think you can. You're just gonna have to tell people this goofball who came to do our presentation.
You should have that be your signature on all your emails now.
Hi, I'm
Tory
your
Thompson, Providence Elderplace goofball.
goofball. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, it looks good.
Awesome. Okay, start from the beginning. Okay, we're gonna pass up Lisa and her mom because we already heard about them. So Elderplace PACE is both a health insurance and we're the healthcare provider. Oh, that is, I'm not even touching the mouse. There's something weird going on in my computer today. Okay, is both a health insurance and the healthcare provider. We have our own clinics. So part of the reason is that a PACE program is required to not only have the clinic, but also have a social center or a senior center attached to their clinic for the social interaction. So it's a national program funded by Medicare and Medicaid. There are 144 PACE programs in 30 states. Providence Elderplace operates 9 sites in Oregon. If you can see the map, there are 8 sites in the Portland metro area. We cover 100% of Multnomah County, North Clackamas area, and large part of Washington County. And that one little dot on the far left that's green is Seaside. And it has probably more territory mile-wise than all the other 8 sites put together, but it's a rural program and they are very different. When seniors get to rural areas and they are elderly and low resources, they tend not to have very many services. So we cover a wide area so more people can be served. And most people say, how long has this program been around? Are you new? We are not new. We've been doing this for 32 years. That's just Elderplace. There were some sites before us, so they've been around about 37 years. PACE is a public health option for seniors 65 plus who qualify for Medicaid long-term care services. Patients do not need to have Providence insurance because PACE becomes the insurance. The confusion is about the name. So yes, it's Providence Elderplace. But when anybody starts a PACE program, that sponsoring agency needs to fund getting a clinic or retrofitting a building, buying buses and staffing everything and all the equipment, because the first year that you're enrolling people, believe me, it doesn't happen where 60 people are joining one clinic site. The entity such as Providence has to fund that proposal for a year at least in order for it really to be self-sustaining. When somebody chooses a PACE program as their health plan, there are no premiums, no co-pays, and no deductibles. And every time I tell anybody this, a family or a professional, it is kind of hard to believe, but hopefully I'm going to help you understand how and why. Both Medicare and Medicaid pay into a bucket of money to a PACE program, and then we manage all these pieces of care that somebody needs. We cover their primary care provider, registered nurse, a personal care aide, either at the clinic because they might come in for services and they need assistance going to the bathroom, or they need in-home care. And so we also provide that. We have a day center manager who oversees the whole operation. Each client is assigned a social worker. There are activity staff, caregivers. We have our own fleet of vans and buses and our own drivers. So our drivers are part of the team and staff. Our drivers are valuable pieces, valuable parts of our team because they give us information that we don't always get inside the clinic. When someone's riding a bus, the way they act and the things they tell you, it's kind of casual, like when you're at the beauty salon, you might chat about things. So we get to find out other things, and those drivers can pass that along. In addition, in the Medicaid world, when you call and schedule transportation, that driver simply picks you up at location A and drops you at location B. They're not part of the care team. They know nothing about your background. They just leave you. But in an elder place, when my driver picks me up, if I'm shuffling my feet and I have a bruise on my hand, that information is relayed to the care team, and they do extra looking at me while I'm in the clinic. So it's one of the features of why we're so successful, because so many eyes on somebody means we see things early and we course correct their treatment plan. We have OT, PT, speech, dietitians and pharmacists on staff. And then the things that are included are in-home care services, all the prescriptions, home medical care, specialty appointments, vision, hearing, dental, foot care, all x-rays and labs, medical equipment and supplies, hospital stays in an outpatient, and all procedures and diagnostics. Here's the inside of the brochure. I want people to really see that all of those things we just discussed are zero premium, zero copay, and zero deductible. Because on regular Medicare plans, that is not the case. If you have a zero plan up front, you're going to pay a lot on the other end with deductibles and copays. But this is zero all throughout. Now, if you go, off plan and are going to doctors that we don't know about and doing things we don't know about, that won't be covered. So if you see on the bottom, those are all those people on your team. You and I would expect there's a nurse and a doctor at our clinic, right? Sometimes even a case manager to help us figure out services and connect us to resources. But all of these people are part of your plan. If you need spiritual support, we have chaplains who are experienced in all religions, so they can support anybody in many, many ways. In addition to the medical services that PACE provides, we also provide social activities. So if somebody, right now with COVID, people are not coming to our social centers because we can't bring 50 people in to one social center to sit close together, send them back to where they live, and 3 days later find out somebody had COVID. We do require that people wear masks when they're in the clinic and the social center, but people are only using the social center. If they came in for a medical appointment, then the activity person would talk with them and find out what their needs are. And they might even do this in advance and then send them home with a packet of activities. But even if they're not coming into the social center because our nurse is visiting them and doing medical care in the community, our life enrichment staff are mailing packets of activities to people. We purchased 350 grand pads. By a show of hands or anything, does anybody know what a grand pad is? Or a shake of your head, a couple people? So it's a tablet specifically designed for seniors. So they're simpler to operate. As the owner of it, we can load the phone number to the clinic, the phone number to your social worker, your favorite friends and family circle. You can click on them and call. Maybe we put activities. If you're a person who likes art, there are all sorts of art museums that have online programs. You could look at art. If you like country western music, we can put country western music concerts or YouTube links to things. So we can load things for you so that you have activities in your home or apartment. As a PACE program, we don't, it's a regulation, we can't also have hospice. So instead of hospice, we use palliative care. We have 3 levels. Someone might start palliative care level 1, 2 or 3 years before the end of life. So it gives even more wraparound services than the standard PACE program. And then hospice, because we're adding so many things in palliative care for a year or 2 in advance. When you come to that final stage, those last few months of actively dying, then people graduate to palliative care level 3 and get the final services for comfort care. The other thing with palliative care is when you're a year or 2 or 3 in advance, you can be actively treating as opposed to hospice if you choose hospice, all active treatment stops. Like say you have cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's, all of those treatments would stop. But in palliative care, all those things continue. We also have behavioral health
Tori?
specialists. Yes.
Can I ask a question about the
Yeah.
hospice and palliative thing? Because I didn't realize that. Is the reason that PACE is not allowed to do hospice, is that because patients, like insurance is required to give patient choice with their hospice agency, or what's the reason behind that?
Well, I don't know why PACE programs can't also have hospice, but it's a type of hospice is part of your insurance benefit, and we are an insurance. You can go on to hospice, but you disenroll in PACE.
Oh, well, it's probably because you get a new primary care when you're hospice admitted. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
I never realized that.
Yeah, and at the very end, when things are moving pretty fast, finding a new health insurance and getting on board with hospice is challenging.
Yeah.
And that care team that's been following you, all those people for the last year or 2 or 3, are just really pretty invaluable, I think, to supporting you at your end of life and your family as well.
Yeah. So it's not an issue for the palliative care team to have like the morphine and those medications. That's not an issue at all. Okay.
Not at all.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So and then we have behavioral health on staff and contract with special appointments. We have care management. So here's one of the really interesting things, and this is going to come up again on the slide, but I'm just going to go to it now. You know, when you go to your primary and then you have 2 specialists, do the specialists tell the primary what they talked with you about and what they prescribe and what their treatment plans are? It does not happen very often. Almost never, because it's really not how the medical model is built. The specialist does not need to interface with the primary. If you want the primary to know what you're doing in your specialty care, you have to take the documents and fax them to, or bring copies to your PCP. But in our world, we schedule the specialty appointment, we make the transportation for the specialty appointment, we send the documentation, and the documentation comes back to us with our driver. So we know what's going on with that specialist. There is no siloed care in the PACE program. So care management really is all the care. And then we also pay for somebody to have in-home care or be in assisted living, memory care, or adult care homes. Elderplace has contracts with 24 in-home care agencies, 440 or more assisted living, residential care, memory care, and adult foster care homes. So we're successful because I just told you about the primary and specialty care, that interdisciplinary team that follows you from day one and watches you progress and knows what your goals of care are and knows, while you're of sound mind, what your end of life plans are and how you like things delivered and what makes you comfortable and what makes you agitated. So as you go along and you can no longer speak for yourself, we know the things and the way you like them. Our own team of transportation, early intervention and prevention, and PCP, RN, and PT visits in-home or on telemed. And we were doing a lot of this before COVID even started. There is a great article that I'll send on to Bess. We've had a couple in a few years from New York Times stating that PACE programs are the gold standard of care for seniors because of all the wraparound care and how detailed they are in delivering all the care. Clients receive geriatric focused medical care. So you and I, we share our doctor, and that doctor might have seen a baby, a pregnant woman, a teenager, a sports injury, follow up on a hip replacement. I mean, just all sorts of things. But in our world, they only ever see people who are over the age of 55. So they become experts. We have people who have only worked their entire careers with seniors. Our medical director is Dr. Maureen Nash. I don't know if any of you know her. If you Oh, now I'm going to forget because it's been so long. Out in Forest Grove, there is a Tuolumne Jerry Psych. Very specialized care for people who have dementia and psychiatric disorders and really have behavior issues. They get admitted and they troubleshoot their behaviors and meds. She was their medical director for quite some amount of time. She is extremely knowledgeable. She has multiple medical degrees. She is a rock star. And she leads us in being dementia and behavioral health experts. Your clients have a long-term relationship with their team. If they start out in their home with in-home care, we orient the in-home care agency. Then when that's no longer enough care and you need to move to the next level, assisted or memory or adult care home, then we help that new housing place get oriented to your care interests and what you prefer and how you like things to be. We have socialization, and we all know that during COVID, that was a huge source of unwellness and mental health distress for so many people. And because we believe in that, it's such an integral part of our program. We support clients through changing care needs, and we support maintaining your current living situation. So if you really want to live at home, we're doing everything under the sun that's in our power to keep you where you are. If you're an assisted, and we can wrap around you more and more so you don't have to move to a nursing home, because PACE is an alternative to being in a nursing home. So if you're in the hospital or you're living in a nursing home, you can't enroll in a PACE program until you're out of that situation. But if you want to be not in in that living situation, and your Medicaid case manager says that is also a great fit, then we're going to work with you, your family, to get you placed in a lower level of care, and then our team wraps around you so you still get a high level of care. So who benefits the most from PACE? Family caregivers who are overwhelmed or unavailable, have had one ER visit or hospitalization, have complex chronic conditions, and are missing medical appointments. So who's eligible? Somebody who's 55 years and older, lives in the community, their own home or apartment, an assisted living, a memory care, and adult care home. They live in our service area or are willing to relocate. And that is because we provide the transportation. So if our clinics are in the Portland metro area, we wouldn't drive to Salem to pick you up. Does that make sense? And then you agree to get all your care through PACE, and you are Medicaid long-term care services eligible. So how many of you are familiar with what that looks like? I see Bess. Anybody else? I'm going to give you a little more detail. So Medicaid long-term care services has two criteria. I'm looking for, I don't have that in there. So the physical care needs, needing help with mobility, walking. Trudy, was that a question, or yes, you know what that means?
I think she was just saying that she's familiar with Medicaid because she
Great.
helped set that up for.
All right, yeah, that was a yes. I'm an elder law attorney, so
Oh, excellent.
I
Awesome.
do this a lot, and that's actually why I was late.
Oh, no worries.
Why
Yeah.
I'm not on video, because I'm at home and my dogs keep barking.
No worries. So they need help with mobility, which includes walking, getting up or down from a chair, the bed, the toilet. So transferring and walking, falling, that kind of thing. If somebody's helping them, that's one area. Toileting, if they are independent and incontinent, they're independent. But once they need somebody who's helping them with their incontinence, the laundry, cleaning their body, cleaning the bathroom, any of those kinds of things, then that's a helping task as well. Cognition, either with dementia or mental health needs, where you are not able to manage your activities of daily living. You can't track them. You're not eating well. You're losing weight. You're not taking your medications properly. You miss appointments. You maybe aren't drinking fluids. You're dehydrated. All the things that you and I do without having to think hard about how we set up the day and the week. If someone else is helping with that, then that's another area. And then eating, which is not the same as grocery shopping or cooking. Eating is physically getting the food from the plate to my mouth. or a feeding tube, someone hooking that up for me. So those are the 4 areas. And then the income qualification, currently the income cap is $2,523 of monthly income, and asset is $2,000. It does take between 4 to 8 weeks to go through the Medicaid process. So I have told people, if you're at 4 or 6,000, you could start that process knowing that you're going to spend down to that 2,000 in the next month on legitimate things for yourself. So those are the ways that people, they go through a screening and an assessment. If somebody calls us, we'll give them the right phone number for the county they live in and kind of tell them what to expect, and then check in with them every few weeks to see if they have questions, or if there's been a big gap and their case manager or the assigned assessor hasn't reached back, we can sort of coach them. And we have most of the phone numbers and emails of the Medicaid case managers, so we can check in and see how that progress is coming along. It takes, as I said, it takes them 4 to 6 or 8 weeks to get Medicaid eligible. And then it takes anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks for somebody to enroll in us. That's all about the timing during the month as to when someone is signing paperwork and finalizes everything on the dotted line. If we have everything signed and back to us 5 business days before the end of the month, then their insurance will start on the 1st of next month. If they miss that deadline cutoff date, then we'll still keep working with them. But let's say their insurance wouldn't start for October 1st. We would finalize everything and they would start on November 1st. So how to refer a client? You can tell a client that this is the phone number. They can call in, ask questions. We can receive calls in English, Spanish, Russian, and via phone interpreter. So earlier today, I sent Bess a link to our landing page, which has the video in English and Spanish. It has a number of brochures. It has more explanation. So you can share that link with families. And I also sent the brochure as a separate item so that you can forward those on to people. What questions do you have?
Let's see. Oh, there we go. Now you can see people.
I had a question. You said it was also private pay. So how does that work?
So you can do private pay. It's such a small sliver of business. So it's about 2% of our folks who do private pay. If, let's say, someone has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, there's no way in their lifetime they're going to spend their money off. The family is exhausted about all the things, all that care coordination. They can purchase this as an insurance plan. Are you ready? It's $6,000 a month. But remember, who's paying for the in-home care? Who's paying for the medical? Who's paying for assisted living or memory care? It's us. So if you ask families to look at that, you can say, make a list of your incontinence products, medications, doctors, co-pays, deductibles, all those kinds of things, like not even a deductible if you go to the hospital. So that may pencil out for some people. Here's where the challenge comes in, where it isn't always advantageous. So let's say you're living in assisted living and you would like to enroll, and we pay the assisted living based on, you also have to have a courtesy Medicaid assessment, because we wouldn't want to take your $6,000 a month and 6 months later you run out of money, then you truly need Medicaid. You get assessed and you go, you don't have enough care needs. You don't qualify for Medicaid. And then what a waste that was for you to spend that money in that way. So you do a courtesy assessment for Medicaid. They verify you indeed do have the personal care needs. So you can buy this plan privately. When you run out of money, you seamlessly go onto Medicaid and we keep doing all your services the way they are. But private pay, we pay, I'm just going to pull a number out because every kind of care is different and every base plus 1, 2, 3, 4 is different. So let's say we pay an assisted living $3,600 for you to live there. On private pay, they might actually get $7,000 for you on private pay. And the housing provider says, that's not a good deal for me. I don't want to do that. So if we pay $3,200, the family can be asked by the housing provider to pay up to, but not more than what we're paying. So they could pay $3,199 in addition to $6,000. So it's pricey. Some people pull the trigger because they have plenty of money, but what they don't have is a lot of people helping them do all that care coordination. And some people do it because they have $25,000 and they're going to go on Medicaid anyway. So they don't care if they spend it down quick in the next couple of months or spend it down in 6 or 8 months, so long as they don't have to do all the care coordination anymore. So that's how the private pay works. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a little more complicated about the payment, and it gets expensive. What other questions?
I want to clarify on that. Do you actually do the Medicaid application for them?
We do not. We're not allowed. So we'll hook them up. We tell them what to expect about the screener call and this thing and that thing and how long it takes. And then we just check in with them.
But for the private pay, when somebody wants to pay privately, you coordinate the courtesy Medicaid assessment.
We do coordinate the courtesy assessment.
One question, this wasn't really a question, but something to clarify and make the group aware of. So I think in the past, like, especially for people like myself, or when somebody calls and they have a family member on Medicaid and they're looking for housing or rah, 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 we oftentimes are be like, well, like, we can't really help you, but try Providence Elderplace. And it's not a fix all, like, immediately solution. And it works much more smoothly if somebody is already in an environment, like a living situation, a care situation,
A stable situation where they're not going to be relocating in the next 3 months.
Yeah. So it works a little easier for people that maybe are already on Medicaid and living in like an adult family home, and then they can enroll in the PACE program. That's like probably the easiest, like, butter situation, right,
Yeah.
Tory, for you guys?
Yeah.
They can't necessarily find housing right off the bat for somebody enrolling.
But having said that, every single week we get a list of adult care homes that have vacancies and are willing to take an Elderplace participant. We call our plan members participants because we want them to participate in the choices and the care that's coming to them. So we don't act as a referral agent, but we'll give them 2 or 3 in the neighborhood they want to live in. And usually it's the family, and we say, here are 2 places. Please call them or do a video tour or a personal tour and find out if either of these seems right for your loved one. Now, we're still not involved. So if they choose to move in, they can say, so I would really like my mom to be on Elderplace when she moves in. Do you have an opening? And are you willing to take somebody? And then first thing they're going to say is, well, do you know what the pay is? And the families often don't know what the pay is. So they say, well, who's your Medicaid case manager and what's their phone number? So then the housing provider is calling Medicaid to try to get that documentation to learn what the payment scale is. Because depending on how complex they are and what the pay rate is, they may or may not want to move forward with that client. It is, I don't know if anybody else is having the experience, that it is very tough to find a Medicaid placement these days.
I mean, has it ever been easy, Tory?
It's
gotten harder.
It's gotten harder. It has never been totally easy because, as I said, I used to work in senior housing, and I worked at the largest memory care in the whole state, and then another really large IL and AL. And I'd have a waiting list of 20 people for Medicaid for the AL, and it sometimes would be a year. And by the time I'd get around to calling people, they'd already be placed or somebody had passed. Mm-hmm. What's happening now is that there is the staffing shortage means people are only occupying by 8%. So there is a high demand for placement, and now the adult care homes or anybody really can say, well, that's going to cost, instead of something that used to cost $5,500, now it costs $8,000. And if the families want to do it, they pay. The same thing is happening with Medicaid. Well, that person looks pretty hard. I'm not willing to take 3,000, but I'm willing to take 4,500. And we're like 45, starting out the gate as a brand new person. If we start somebody on the insurance at $4,500 of payment for housing, there's very little room to grow over the next year or 2 or 3, because we still need some of that income to pay for their medical care, not just their housing. So we are hunting for people who love what we do for the service and are willing to take a little less for the pay.
Yeah.
What other
So, Tara-
questions? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. I think it's just the word elder place. It makes me think that there's a place. So they don't actually live at a Providence Elderplace facility. They have to be in a facility, or, the things that you mentioned, or they could be at home.
Mhm.
And these are services where people will come to them, take them to doctors, take care of them. So you're also talking about long-term care, if you're considering the 5 activities of daily living, getting up, transporting, toileting, dressing, eating, bathing. If somebody can't do 3 of those things, or a number of those things, wouldn't they need somebody there 24/7?
Well, not everybody's home alone in an apartment. Sometimes they're with a family member.
Okay. All
And
right.
so
That's okay.
right. So the program would pay for even Medicaid went away a few years before COVID, went away from doing 24-hour in-home care. They don't do it anymore either. It's just not cost effective. It costs way too much money. So if you, in our program, if you need more, I think the cutoff is about, if you need more than 8 hours a day of in-home care, it's not feasible for us to keep you there. If we know that if you come in and you have a 11-hour a day in-home care plan from the county, from the state, we have to back away because we can't match that.
Okay.
Unless you're willing to move to a.
Unless you're willing to move to a community.
Mhm.
Now, is there a waiting list to get on PACE, or no?
No.
No. Okay. And do they have to reach out to you?
Yes, they are supposed to reach out to us. We're not supposed to cold call. But if you ask a client, would you like more information? I can have them call you. Then you can email me. I can forward that on. And you've said, please call Sandy Johnson. She's given permission. Here's her phone number. She'd like to learn more about PACE. Then I just forward that email on to the office, and one of our information specialists will call that person, answer their questions, and tell them more.
Okay. Okay. And one question about hospice. Hospice is actually paid for by Medicare. So that confuses me, why, if somebody needed to go to hospice, why they wouldn't be allowed to do that.
PACE programs, I don't know exactly why, are not allowed to have hospice programs.
But the palliative care actually kind of takes the place of that at the end.
Correct.
Anyway.
And even before the end. So, there's so many things that come to you that first week you join hospice. There's a flurry of activity, getting lots of things set up. And some of that stuff is part of the innate plan, the innate services of a PACE program to begin with. And so we have had a few families say, boy, I just don't, it doesn't seem like you have as many services as hospice. Well, tell me specifically, what are you looking at? And they tell us, what they're looking for. And we say, oh, well, your mom actually has that, and she's been having that for some years. What about this? So there are a lot of things. And a lot of families, because I talk to them, are under the understanding that when you get on hospice, they send caregivers to your home to do the care. Well, they send a bath aide to your home. They don't send caregivers. That's a separate thing you have to hire on your own. And like, oh, so
Okay.
yeah.
And as far as doctors are concerned, do they have to go through the clinic only?
They do, they agree to get all their care through PACE. So they
And-
are, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm thinking mainly in terms of specialists, if they need to be referred to a specialist. Is that possible, even if the specialist
Yes.
is not necessarily with PACE?
Yes, because we have lots of specialist contracts that are not part of PACE.
Okay, okay.
We want people who, we want the PCPs, the doctors and the nurse practitioners to be geriatric specialists, not necessarily a heart or, you know, neurology or, you know, those kinds of things. Not that narrowly focused. And we do sometimes need those individuals. Over 65% of our members have dementia and or mental health diagnoses. So as you can see, there are a lot of folks who maybe don't understand what those specialty appointments are for, and it causes them more angst for them. So we're and we have people go to those specialty appointments, and they don't understand what the doctor's trying to tell them and what the doctor wants to do. And then the doctors, by code of ethics, says, I don't feel as I have consent. So because they know Elderplace, they actually call us and say, why did you send this person who doesn't understand how to give consent and what the appointment's about? But if a person with a memory impairment or cognitive impairment from behavioral health went to a medical appointment, that doctor wouldn't call the other insurance plan and say, hey, why is this person coming to me? They don't understand how to give consent and what we're here to do. But Elderplace is kind of its own unique situation, so they know how to reach us. Because remember, we give the documents, we send them over, the driver hands them over to the clinic, the specialty appointment. They fill them out and send them back. Sometimes people come back from a specialty appointment and having had no care because they didn't understand what they were there for. And it really is a code of ethics, I believe, about not treating someone if they don't understand what you're doing for them.
Right, okay.
And I do
Okay.
think that the team of practitioners, your doctors and nurse practitioners, there's very little turnover in the clinics.
Very little.
They've been in those clinics for a long time. And they really have really like good relationships with the patients, the participants, which is really nice. They're not just doing their year stint because it looks
not
good
at
on
all.
paper. Like they love the program.
Yeah.
Which I think is really nice. Like you kind of know you're going to have the same practitioner.
Here's the other thing. I've told people who, or I've asked people who work in clinics, so they verified. Your and my clinics, our PCPs have between 2,500 and 4,000 patients on their panel to make a practice run. In Elderplace, our PCPs have about 130. So the reason we only get a 15 or 20-minute visit at our PCP is because they've got so many people they have to get through in a day. But if somebody needs a 45-minute visit at Elderplace, they get the 45-minute visit because we know how important it is to start out slow. It takes people a while to warm up. They have a lot of questions. We've got to figure stuff out. So we do a lot of follow-up. On average, our clients are seen 24 times a year by their nurse and 12 times a year by their PCP. That does not happen in other Medicare and Medicaid worlds.
Mhm.
What other questions?
I'm enrolling when I get home. Was that funny, Kelsey?
A girl with a plan.
Got a long way to go, Bess.
That's right.
Well, I'm being prepared.
It's great.
It doesn't
And-
look like there's no other questions in the chat or anything, but you added some extra things that I've never heard you explain before. So that was really helpful, Tori.
Great.
I don't know if you know, Tory, are there other PACE programs in Oregon, or is it Providence Elderplace?
There is a PACE program down in Medford, and it's run by a company called All PACE, ALLPACE.
Okay. they're pretty rare to find, I'm discovering.
They are. If you Google Program of All-Inclusive Care for Elderly, you'll go to the National PACE website. You can click on a map of the United States and see where all the dots are and see that some states have no PACE program at all. Because it really does take a lot of money to fund and get them started. So the majority of PACE programs are run by nonprofits or mission-based services. Providence is, by the Catholics. It was started by a group of nuns who, every time I hear their story, I just go, man, those ladies had some chutzpah. They they bartered medical care for lumber to build. They bartered this for this, and they are the reason these, like, I think 5 or 6 nuns are the whole start of Providence being around.
Mhm.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Perfect. Well, thank you, Tori. And I'm really glad that we recorded this because we'll be sharing it with there were quite a few families that registered who I know still want to see this. So it'll definitely be helpful for them. And then if anybody wants Tori's information to contact her or ask her more questions, you can certainly reach out to me and I can share her contact information.
I'll put it in the chat.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Thank you everybody for joining the official send off.